Hey friends, Christina here. I have a brand new product that I'm super excited to show you. If you've been following along lately, you know I do a lot of laser ornaments. And I know that my papercraft people sometimes feel a little left out. They always ask, can this be done on a Cricut? And usually the answer is no for those, at least not without a lot of modification, as my laser ornaments have a lot of engraving that just doesn't always translate well to paper. But this time I have something just for the paper crafters. Look at this. I think this just turned out beautiful. One problem that I've run into with doing paper ornaments is I always worry about the longevity of them, because let's be honest, paper just doesn't stand up to wear and tear very well. So I had been looking for kind of like a mini ornament shadow box, and through lots of searching I found these little tins. Oop, I just bumped the lid off, but it's these little tins. I think they're candy tins. And look, they have a little window in them, so they're just kind of like a mini ornament shadow box. Now, I'll be honest, these are small. They're about 3.5 inches wide. If I could have found the exact same thing that was maybe an inch or two bigger, I would have gone for that, but this is what we're working with. So these are metal candy tins. You can find them on Amazon. If you buy my file, I'll have the exact product of what I'm using. But there's several vendors that sell these little tins, but they're perfect ornament size. See, look, they just kind of fit in the palm of your hand. And so I've made a few little designs. These are my snowflakes. I have 3 different snowflake designs, and I thought these would work just great to do little ornaments. And then I had the idea, what if we threw a light in here? So now look at this. Isn't that so pretty? Okay, I'm gonna go through a tutorial and show you exactly how to go put these together. It's actually pretty easy. So the first thing you're going to do with these ornaments is obviously you're going to cut out your paper part. So on these snowflake ornaments, the thing I love about them is that you can do all of the layers on white, and all of those layers will fit on one piece of paper. So all you have to do is upload your SVG to Cricut and hit make it. And it's all just gonna cut one piece of paper. Now, you are welcome to switch up the colors as with any of my designs. If you want to do these in blues and silvers and stuff, be my guest. But this works beautifully on just all white. And of course, this is only for the snowflake design. Now, I will let you know I do have other designs that I'm working on. Some of my other Christmas designs I'm tweaking to work as ornaments, so those probably won't work as well in all white, so you'll have to do the different colors. But for the snowflakes particularly, they work great on all white. Now I want you to look here. When you just hit make it, it's not going to be in order. We're used to that. That's how Cricut likes to play. But all of the layers have a number. If you do my shadow box designs, you know that I don't put a number on the first and last layers of my shadow box designs. These are different. They have a number on every single layer. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's 5 layers on this one. And that's because when you look at your tin, the tin has this built-in border on it. So you're not going to see the numbers at all. They're going to be totally hidden. So you don't see them at all. The numbers are very helpful, especially when you're working on a circular design like this, to let you know which way is up, because this snowflake, it would be easy to turn it even 90 degrees or 45 degrees and just not know which way is up. So as long as you have your number at the bottom and facing the right direction, you're good to go. Okay, now we've got all of our layers off the mat, and now we're going to put them together. So I wanted to include this in the video because there's a specific way that you need to put these together. Now, you only want to put tape along the border. These have a nice thick border. The only place that you want tape is going to be on the outside border, because since we're putting a light through these, we don't want the light to obstruct the tape, because you will be able to see the tape when the light shines through it. So we don't want that. So the only place that you're putting tape is on the thick outside border. So all I do is I take my 4 strips and I cut them in half, and then the halves in half. And that's all the tape you're gonna need. Now let's go ahead and flip number 4 over. I start from the bottom up on these. I have just found that that's a little easier to work with, and I'll tell you why in a second. But look, all I'm doing is I'm putting tape on the sides and on the bottom, just along the border. These are small enough, they don't really even need any support in the middle. The tape is going to, along the border, is going to be just fine. So as long as you have your numbers at the bottom, you know you're lined up. So that's the easy one. See, you're still getting your dimension. Let's flip this over. As you can see, these go together a lot quicker than the other shadow boxes, just because they're so small and you only need 4 pieces of tape. All right, we've got 3 on. Let's line that up. Let's do 2. Alrighty. Okay, now this is why we're starting from the bottom up on these. Now we have our first layer. Okay, now layer 1 is cut at 3.5 inches. The rest of the layers are cut at 3.3 inches. So if you stack this on top, you'll notice that this layer is just a little bit bigger. Do you see that? That is intentional. This layer needs to be bigger. So it would be harder to line them up if you were going from the bottom down, because this layer is bigger, so it's not gonna line up if you're using your edges to eyeball. You wanna use the design itself to line it up, not necessarily the edges. Okay, so we're gonna put our 1 on. All right, it's as easy as that. So look, if we turn it over, you can see there's like a lip around the side now. Layer 1 is supposed to be bigger. Okay, once you have your design assembled, we're going to put the fairy lights in. Now, this is super simple. This is my favorite part. We're just gonna open up our tin. This is how your fairy lights are gonna come in the package. So you're gonna have your little thing right here that you need to pull out to activate the battery, and they're gonna come twisted up like this. So you're just gonna untwist and untangle, and that can be a little cumbersome. So I've got some untangled already. So all I do is first you're going to tape this part to the back. So I'm just using a command strip, or you can just use some of your double-sided tape that you use to put your design together if you want. Now we're going to tape the side without the screws. I know we have these screws and you might want to hide them by putting them face down, but to access the battery, you need to be able to unscrew those screws. So if you want to be able to change your batteries, then you need to have those screws available. So all we're doing, let's see, I just kind of like to place it right here. Place it right in the middle, towards the side, whatever you want to do. Now, you don't have to worry about putting these in neatly. All I do is I, let's see, find the end, and I just kind of wrap them loosely around my hand. And then we're just gonna wad them up and stick them in here, like so, all right? Okay. Now we're gonna see why the top is a little bigger. We're gonna put our design face down in the lid. And you can see it fits right in, the top layer fits exactly on the lid, but then there's a little gap. This is so we can fit this, we can put the lid on, and the rest of the design will go into the jar, and the top rim of the jar will push the design up against the window. So that will hold this design in place so it's not flopping around inside the jar. So all we're gonna do is stick it on. And see, that rim is just pushing it right up there. And now we have our light. We can just, there's the switch right here, flip it on, and look at that. How easy is that? Now the next thing we need to do is add a hanger. So I feel like you guys are probably going to experiment with different ways to hang these, and that is just fine, but I'll show you the way that I have found works. You might just want to tie a ribbon around it with some hot glue. That would probably work too. The way I'm using is I'm using these, they're 1-inch eye screw hooks. So you're just going to need to put this through the top. So let's turn the light off while we're working on this. I don't think it'll hurt anything, but so obviously this is metal, and poking this through is kind of difficult. So the way that I have found that works for me is I just take another screw, or you can take a hammer, or not a hammer, a nail. I just have a spare screw that I had. And I'm just gonna take a hammer and just give it a few bangs, because we just want to puncture a hole in there. Now it did dent a little, so you might want to like take it off and kind of do some body control on that. I probably damaged it a little bit. And then you're going to take your screw and just screw it in. And once you have it screwed in, then you're all done. Like I said, I hit that a little hard. So maybe not so hard, or maybe try to poke out that dent if it bothers you. It really, especially once you add a bow, you wouldn't be able to see it. But if that bothers you, you could probably poke it out, or not hammer so hard. But anyways, so that's done. Your ornament is done. You just need to add your hanger. I've been doing these bows, so I am, as you can see, I am not going to do a bow tutorial, because this bow is not even that pretty, and it took me like 10 minutes to tie. Bow tying is not a talent of mine, but the way you do it is you tie your bow, like you put a jar here, and you tie your bow around it like this, so then you have a loop here. And then you just stick the end through here. And then you bring your bow up. And look, I did it upside down, but you get the idea. That's how your bow would be at the top. I just needed to turn it around. But I'm sure you guys will have other hanging ideas. You could put just some twine and a bead here, or other ribbon, or there's endless possibilities of what you can do to hang this. But this is how the lighted ornaments work. Now keep watching the group for more designs. I've got some other designs that I'm working on that are not the all white, that are just my other Christmas designs, and you could use lights in them as well. If you want to try these, I would recommend getting the variety pack. You can get all colored lights, but I think some of the other designs that I'm working on would look better with the white lights or the soft lights. There's even blue lights. So if you want to experiment with these, maybe grab the variety pack. But I just love the ornament, the snowflake ornament with the colored lights. I think it just is so pretty. Anyways, I hope you have fun with these. Thanks for watching.